The bustling university hall, filled with the excited chatter of alumni and students, was a vibrant tapestry of shared history. For Wang Yibo's resonance harmonizer, it pulsed with a low, contented hum, reflecting the nostalgic warmth of the gathering. Beside him, Xiao Zhan's boundless empathy was a calm current, absorbing the collective joy and reminiscence of the place. They were attending a special ceremony honoring Zhan's former teachers, a rare public appearance that allowed them a glimpse into Zhan's formative years. Zhan led Yibo towards a small group, his face lighting up. "Yibo, this is Professor Lin," Zhan introduced, his voice tinged with deep respect. "My literature teacher. She taught me everything about finding the unspoken truth in stories." Professor Lin, a woman with keen, intelligent eyes and an aura of gentle wisdom, smiled warmly at Zhan. But as her gaze fell upon Yibo, her smile faltered. Her eyes, usually so composed, widened almost imperceptibly, and her aura, to Jerry's aura attuner, flickered with a sudden, profound note of bewilderment, tinged with a deep, unsettling familiarity. It was a frequency that defied immediate categorization, a resonant echo of something long forgotten, yet deeply impactful. "Professor Lin, this is Wang Yibo," Zhan continued, oblivious to the subtle shift. "My partner." Professor Lin's hand, which had been reaching out to shake Yibo's, froze mid-air. Her eyes, now fixed on Yibo, held a profound, almost hypnotic intensity. The easy hum of the hall seemed to fade, replaced by a sudden, jarring silence in Yibo's harmonizer. The first mind-blowing scene erupted not with a grand display, but with an internal manifestation, visible only to Yibo and Zhan. Around Professor Lin, the very air began to shimmer with an ethereal, almost invisible, fractured memory cloud. It wasn't a coherent image, but a swirling vortex of fragmented sensory data, the faint scent of rain-soaked earth, the distant peal of a child's laughter, a sudden, blinding flash of light, and the overwhelming feeling of pure, desperate fear, quickly followed by an inexplicable sense of safety. This cloud pulsed with a raw, unhealed energy, a vivid, mind-blowing representation of a traumatic event from Professor Lin's past, triggered by Yibo's presence. Yibo's echo syndrome, instead of merely registering it, began to resonate with the fear, a cold, sharp echo of a danger he couldn't place, yet felt deeply familiar. Zhan gasped, his empathy flooding with Professor Lin's sudden, overwhelming terror. He felt the raw, primal fear, the sense of imminent danger, and the subsequent, inexplicable relief. He looked at Yibo, whose face was pale, his harmonizer screaming with the discordant chaos of the fractured memory. Professor Lin, though physically calm, was clearly shaken. Her gaze on Yibo intensified, as if trying to piece together a puzzle that defied logic. Your resonance, it's familiar," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Like a storm, and then, quiet." Yibo, fighting against the overwhelming fear emanating from the fractured memory cloud, tried to understand. He had no memory of ever meeting Professor Lin. Yet, his echo syndrome was vibrating with an uncanny familiarity, a sense of deep, fated connection to her past trauma. He realized this wasn't about a past encounter. It was about a past event he was somehow connected to. He looked at Zhan, a silent plea for understanding passing between them. Zhan, his empathy now fully engaged, reached out, not physically, but with his pure emotional will, towards the fractured memory cloud. He tried to sift through the chaos, to find the core truth, the source of the profound fear and subsequent peace. He understood Yibo's confusion. This wasn't a personal memory of Yibo's, but a resonant echo of a shared fate. The second mind-blowing scene was an act of profound, temporal harmony. As Zhan's empathy connected with the fractured memory cloud, Yibo, guided by Zhan's intent, used his echo syndrome not to simply reflect the memory, but to reharmonize its discordant fragments. He focused on the fleeting scent of rain and the child's laughter, trying to find the missing piece, the original resonance of that moment. Slowly, agonizingly, the chaotic cloud began to coalesce. It didn't just form a coherent image, it became a shimmering, ethereal, temporal bridge, stretching back decades, showing a specific moment in time. They saw it, a shared vision, projected into their minds and visible as a faint, holographic overlay in the hall. A younger Professor Lin, then a student, caught in a sudden torrential downpour, her car skidding uncontrollably towards a ravine. Terror contorted her face. A child's toy, lost from a nearby picnic, bounced into her path. And then, a fleeting, almost imperceptible detail, A tiny, almost invisible echo wave of pure, protective force, emanating from a nearby hidden grove of trees, a wave that subtly, gently, deflected the child's toy, forcing Lin to swerve, narrowly avoiding the ravine. They saw the echo wave originate from a small boy, hidden among the trees, playing, his resonance harmonizer then a nascent, uncontrolled power, unconsciously deflecting the toy, altering fate. That boy, they realized with a heart-stopping shock, was Yibo. Professor Lin gasped, clutching her chest, tears streaming down her face. She remembered the fear, the inexplicable swerve, the almost accident, and the feeling of a presence, a small, benevolent miracle that had saved her life. She looked at Yibo, her eyes now brimming with profound understanding and awe. The resonance she felt wasn't familiar because they had met. It was familiar because he had saved her. The climax arrived in the silent aftermath. The temporal bridge faded, leaving the hall glowing with a benevolent, residual energy. Professor Lin, her voice thick with emotion, reached out and gently grasped Yibo's hands. "You," she whispered, her eyes shining. "It was you. You saved me." The fractured memory cloud around her didn't just disappear. It solidified, not into chaos, but into a shimmering, ethereal constellation of shared destinies that formed silently above their intertwined hands. Each star in this constellation pulsed with a different, profound connection. The initial echo wave of Yibo's nascent power, Professor Lin's life saved, Zhan's future with his beloved teacher, and the fated meeting that had brought them all together. This constellation wasn't just a symbol. It was the living, breathing manifestation of their interconnected lives, a profound truth woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. The constellation didn't stay in the hall. It pulsed outwards, a gentle, unseen current, flowing through the harmonized network. It was a new kind of anchor, a silent, profound broadcast of fate and benevolent intervention that touched every soul, reminding them of the unseen threads that connect all life. The unexpected recognition had transformed into a profound revelation. Wang Yibo's past, unbeknownst to him, was interwoven with Zhan's, through the life of his beloved teacher. His protective instinct, his profound love, was not just for Zhan, but for the very fabric of their shared universe, proving that fate, when guided by pure intention, weaves a tapestry of love that transcends time and space, connecting souls in ways no one could ever predict. The constellation of shared destinies pulsed in the heavens, a permanent symbol of their unbreakable bond, a love understood beyond words, reaching across the ages. The constellation of shared destinies, a shimmering reminder of a fated past, slowly dissolved into the clear night sky, leaving behind a subtle, benevolent shimmer that had calmed the anxieties of all who felt its touch. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo stood in the university hall, their exhaustion replaced by a profound, unshakable sense of security. The ordeal was over. They had faced the deepest fears of their hearts and emerged victorious. Their love, once a public miracle, was now a private, unassailable force. But the world they had left behind was not so easily forgotten. The harmonized network, though healed of its malevolent chaos, was still a vast, sentient entity, and its collective memory of them was a powerful force. It began to create phantom echoes of their past, not as an attack, but as a subtle, seductive pull. It wanted them back, wanted their stories, their light, to fill its void. These echoes were not just memories. They were living, breathing temptations, offering a life of continued adoration and cosmic power. Wang Yibo's resonance harmonizer, which he had learned to tune for peace, now picked up on these faint, siren calls, and he felt a familiar, uneasy pull. The first mind-blowing scene began subtly, weaving its way into the very fabric of their sanctuary. One quiet morning, as the sun streamed through the windows, the light began to shimmer with golden hues. The future tapestry they had once glimpsed, a vision of their shared life, was beginning to manifest physically. Golden light settled on the furniture, each particle a tiny, radiant promise. A quiet morning was transformed into a breathtaking, mind-blowing display as the tapestry materialized, a glowing, ephemeral, luminous landscape of their planned future, a cozy kitchen bathed in sunlight, a dog sleeping peacefully at their feet, shared laughter echoing softly. The apartment was no longer just a space. It was a living canvas of their shared commitment, a direct, physical counter to the outside world's attempts to pull them back. But the phantom echoes from the harmonized network grew stronger, more insistent. Wang Yibo's echo syndrome, a perfect receiver for these temptations, began to show him glimpses of an alternate reality. He saw a version of himself still on stage, his harmonizer humming with the roar of a crowd, a life of endless adoration but profound isolation. He saw Xiao Zhan beside him, his empathy a brilliant, but weary, light, revered by millions but with no one to truly share his heart with. These echoes were powerful, emotionally compelling, and dangerously real, tempting them with a destiny of cosmic significance that would, ultimately, cost them their peace. The conflict culminated in a powerful moment. Xiao Zhan, his empathy now feeling the collective yearning of the fans, a powerful, seductive force, felt the urge to return, to be the public figure they wanted him to be. The phantom echoes were almost too real, the temptation to return to a life of cosmic significance almost too great. But then, their dog, Echo, who had been sleeping at their feet, stirred and gave a soft, sleepy yawn, his body radiating a simple, profound contentment. He was not a phantom or a cosmic echo. He was a living, breathing testament to the life they had chosen. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo looked at each other, a profound understanding passing between them. The future tapestry was not a predetermined path, it was a living choice they had to make every day. With a powerful, mind-blowing act of profound self-love, they used their combined powers to not fight the echoes, but to simply let them go. They absorbed the echoes of fame and glory, the yearning of the fans, the temptation of their past lives. And with a gentle, final act of will, they transmuted them. The chaotic, seductive energy of the phantom echoes didn't vanish. It was woven into a simple, beautiful, unbreaking, golden thread of love that bound their small family together, a physical manifestation of their commitment. The echoes of fame were gone. The world was quiet again. The future tapestry was no longer a vision, but a simple reality. The story ends with them knowing their greatest act of creation was not a grand, public spectacle, but a quiet, beautiful life built together, one day at a time, with their dog. Their love, once a public miracle, was now a quiet, private one, and in that quiet, it had found its true, unending power. The world settled back into its comfortable rhythm, but it was changed. The celestial auras and shimmering cityscapes faded, and the quantum echoes of the past dissolved like morning dew. Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan lived a quiet, ordinary life. Their powers, it seemed, were gone, absorbed into the world to keep it from unraveling. They were just two people, their hands clasped, their hearts beating as one, their greatest power now the simple, profound reality of their shared life. But a new, unforeseen challenge emerged, not from external forces, but from the very nature of their sacrifice. Their love, now the silent, invisible force anchoring reality, had become so deeply embedded in the cosmos that it was affecting the universe's natural order. The universe, in its impersonal, cosmic way, tried to find balance. It wasn't a malevolent force, but an unfeeling, inexorable law, and it was beginning to pull back the power it had been lent. To reclaim its balance, it was subtly, gently, and terrifyingly beginning to sever the very core of their connection, their memories of each other. The first mind-blowing scene was not a spectacle of light and sound, but a profound, silent erosion. It began with small things. One morning, Xiao Zhan reached for the memory of a shared laugh, a moment on a rooftop where Wang Yibo had stumbled over a word. He found only a faint, emotional echo, a ghost of a feeling without a clear image. He tried to recall the specific way Yibo's face had looked in that moment, and the memory was a hazy, indistinct blur. Later, Yibo tried to recall the first time he had seen Zhan's famous radiant smile, and the image in his mind was blurry, its light gone. A cold dread, a more profound fear than any chaos they had ever faced, settled over them. The universe, in its quest for balance, was erasing their shared history. It wasn't taking their love, it was taking the memories that had built it, leaving an empty, beautiful void. The world outside is perfectly stable, but their inner world is slowly unraveling. The fear became a frantic, desperate urgency. They realized the universe didn't want to destroy their love, it simply wanted to re-establish the balance that their all-encompassing power had disrupted. The price of that power, it seemed, was a single, unifying anchor. They knew what they had to do. They had to find a different kind of anchor, a more sustainable one that didn't require the sacrifice of their very essence. They decided on a final, mind-blowing act of defiance and reconnection. They had to journey to the point where their love was first recognized as a cosmic force, the old, abandoned opera house where they had first truly healed. This journey was a mental one, a trip back through their own fading memories, a frantic race against time. The second mind-blowing scene was a poignant, bittersweet descent into their own minds. They stood on a quiet, sun-drenched hill, their eyes closed, their hands clasped. With every ounce of their remaining will, They projected themselves back through time and space, back through their own shared consciousness. They moved through a series of quantum echoes of their past, a frantic, beautiful race against the fading. They landed in a silent, shimmering echo of their apartment, the day they had first confessed their feelings. They saw themselves, their younger selves, and a faint, shimmering, visible imprint of that memory appeared around them, a ghost of a beautiful past they might lose. They watched themselves, two nervous, uncertain young men, and a desperate sob escaped Zhan's lips. "I don't want to forget this," he whispered. Yibo squeezed his hand. "We won't. I won't let us." They moved on, through a swirling vortex of fading memories, a blur of silent concerts, of shared meals, of quiet, unspoken moments. They fought to hold on to each one, to etch it back into their minds. They landed in another echo, this one on the rooftop in the first snowfall, the memory now